Yeah, I did that. Let me show you guys how. Alright, so here it is, my custom Revoltinator that Ed painted up at Anchor Arts, and this thing is just exquisite. I'll get you guys a good flyby of it later to look at all the great details and everything he put in. Everything on this blaster is bone stock, so it works exactly as stock. So check this out. If we rev it up here, you could even see the little spark plugs and all light up in it. And then little rotating arc reactor thing here, and then even on top, if we flip it up a little bit, you should be able to see the, yep, all that goes. Okay, so we want to save certainly the rev feature there, because I think it's one of the coolest things. So what we're going to do, I've got some parts laid out here. We're going to go ham on this thing. So I've got some Inferno wheels. I've got a containment crew cage that was printed for it. It's 42.5, some Fang revamps, mini MOSFET. This is the pusher mechanism out of one of the knockoff Select Fire Strifes. We're not going to go Select Fire, but we are going to attempt to convert this thing to full auto. So that's going to be cool. Do an ME2O in that pusher. A step-down transformer. And then I've got this push-button type switch, which we're going to install over here somewhere so that I can control the rev feature completely independent of the operation of the blaster. So, anyway, let's crack this bad boy open and get to it. Okay, so I've got it opened up here, and the great thing about the Revoltinator is it comes apart super good. So, like, even up here, the very front part comes off, the stock comes off independently, the hand grip top carry handle thing comes out as one piece, and then even the trigger, handle comes off independently of everything else. So this will be a great blaster to paint if you were going to paint up your own. If you're like me and don't relish the idea of paint work, then you get somebody like Ed to do it for you. Also, the little cell phone here on the back pops up. Comes out of there pretty easy. Alright, so now that we've got it open, there's a couple things that we need to identify. Alright, this is the jam door switch. Because I'm probably going to go ahead and put a voltmeter in the back in this cell phone piece if we've got some space. So I normally run that on the access door switch, so when I open the access door, the voltmeter will come on. Alright, so got that taken care of. So like I said, there's our access door switch. We need to know where that's at. Rev switch. Here's the switch that does the fire control group up top that makes those lights go. We're not worried about that specifically. Let me see here. So we're going to get rid of the battery tray. We're just going to take it completely out. Just clip these wires off because we don't need that anymore. But we will need this top section of it, so we'll have to take our Dremel to it and cut it off here so that we have something for the battery cover to screw into. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that down and glue it in there, and then we'll move on. Alright, so I got the battery tree. You can see I took the end off, which I have right here. And there's little tabs on it that correspond with this little slot in the blaster right here. So what we're going to do is drop it back in there. It fits up just like so, and we're going to super glue the crap out of it so that we have somewhere to put our, so we have a way to screw our battery door on. So now we got some super glue in there. We'll connect that up. We're going to put a little extra. And then we'll give it a shot of the accelerator. That should do. And yes, that's in there quite nicely. So now if we ever butterfly the shell open, this will stay in. And now we can screw our battery door back on as if it was a factory blaster. Let's move on. All right, now that we've got that set up, we've got our wires here. One of the things that I do with these to make room for LiPo batteries is cut these gray tabs here off of both sides of the shell. They are mirrored. So here they are on the opposite side. We're going to cut those off. That'll give us a little more space to put our 2S LiPo in. So I'm going to spare you the agony there. I'm just going to go ahead and cut those off, and I'll come back to you, and we'll talk about how we're going to place some of the electronics in this thing, and move on from there. Alright, as you can see, I cut these tabs off. Alright, so the electronics that we have to go in here to save the light up feature, like on those spark plugs, which is the only one I'm really concerned about. This top one, I don't care. I'm not even going to try. So we have to put a buck in there. We're going to put this switch in there that's now going to power the lights. And then, of course, our out-of-darts mini MOSFET, which fortunately that bad boy is so tiny we can put it anywhere. In the handle, back here. Whoops. We can put it back here closer to where the stock mounts. It doesn't matter. We can put that thing anywhere. For our switch, which is just a little momentary switch. No, it's not. Okay, it's a permanent on, permanent off. My bad. Oh well. Thought I had a momentary, but that's okay. This will do fine. We're going to go ahead and drill it and put it right here, which from the outside of the blaster would correspond to this location here, but on the opposite side. That'll give us plenty of space. It's not going to be in the way of the batteries or anything like that. And then for the buck, what we have to do is we'll go ahead and pull the barrel and muzzle out. Let's see if I can get that out of there. There we go. All right, get over there. All right, this orange piece right here is kind of in the way, but I'd like to drop the buck in right about there. So we're gonna cut away some of this orange right here where my finger's at and cut this tab down and drop our buck in right there. So what we need to do is remove this front piece. Again, not a problem on these blasters. It's pretty easy to do. And make a little space right here. We're gonna, like I said, get rid of some of this orange ring, and then lower this so that the buck drops in there nice and smooth. So let's do that. Alright, drilled my hole and installed my switch. Very, very simple. Now, when I do stuff like that, because I never seem to have the right size drill bit, I use a stepped drill bit. I'm using a couple different sizes. If you don't have them, invest, guys. As you can see, this will drill holes of all varied sizes, and then they also have them in a much larger size if you need to drill big holes. So, stepped drill bit, well worth their weight. We cut this down up top, that orange sleeve. So what we're gonna do is just fit this other side of the shell up to make sure that everything is kosher, and that it all closes up as it should. Yes, it does. Not going to be any problems with the buck sitting in there. So, yeah, we're good to go. Now we can start getting our cage prepped and see if we can actually make this thing full auto. All right, we got our cage set up and in. Our Fang revamps, our Inferno wheels are in there. And this cage mounts kind of upside down, if you would, much like a Raven cage with the motors facing up. Which is great because it makes our life a whole lot easier. I didn't have to pre-wire it or anything like that. Moving on really quickly, I've got my little cell phone piece, and you can see I've drilled 2 holes in it here, which is what I like to do generally. Going to be hard for you to see. I'd see a pencil marked out where my voltmeter is going to fit, so I like to drill out a bulk of it, and then I will slowly take my razor knife and files and fit it to the voltmeter. So anyway, I'm going to finish up doing that, and then we'll move on. Alright, so I nicked the shell out right here to make space for our voltmeter because it's now sticking off the back of our cell phone part. You can see we've got that very nicely flush mounted. And if I grab a battery real quick, let's see if we can make it go here. We'll just stick those wires in the battery and hopefully, yep, hang on, there we go. So yeah, that looks great. We saved most of the decal that Ed put on there too, so awesome. Just remember, again, we now have something sticking off the back of our little cell phone that we did not before, so you're going to have to make a little room on the shell right there on both sides for it to close up properly. So don't forget that. We are getting on down to it now, guys. So it's about time to go ahead and pull this fire control group out. And that's where I think we're going to run into our first issue. I haven't put the upgrade motor in here yet. But you see how high the pusher sits in this. So that's going to have to kind of sit up inside this thing. Like that. So that's going to do away with that battery door, or that jam door switch, completely. So we'll have to figure out a different way to turn our voltmeter on. Might just let it run full time. Don't know. I'll figure it out as we go. But anyway, let's get this fire control group out of there and start cutting stuff down and see if we can't make it fit. Alright guys, so we got the pusher assembly here, and we're going to open this up and swap this motor, because obviously the tabs on our ME stick straight out the back. So we're going to have to make a little space right there. So let's grab our screwdriver. These things are so neat and tidy of a little pusher mechanism. It's why I stripped down that knockoff Strife to do this with. Because it's kind of a small scale. We'll put our pinion gear on there. Oops. And then we're going to get our clippers. And it's right here at the back of the case. We're just going to open it up a little bit. And this is pretty much what you have to do to a rapid strike pusher as well if you want to upgrade the motor in it. By the way, is make some space in the shell for the motor tabs. Alright, let's see here. Alright, that looks pretty good. Oh, got one more little piece to take off right here on this corner. I didn't go quite deep enough. Yep, that works. Okay, put the screws back in it. And that's upgraded. One more. Alright, cool, that's in there. And you see the pusher, that motor turns the gears and then it runs all the way out. It's internally sprung, so that's good. One more feature I decided as I was going along here to add to the blaster, let me set that aside, is PWM. So I can have variable speed on this motor, because this thing is going to fly, I would think, with that pusher motor. So I carved out the inside of my carry handle thing. You can see I had to take quite a bit of material away there. But and then dropped a PWM board in. It's not quite center, but it came out pretty good. Made some room for wires to drop at the bottom, so that way I'll be able to control the speed of the pusher motor. Anyway, let's move on. Alright guys, meat and potatoes time. We're going to start taking this apart so we can see if we can make this pusher fit. And I think we can. I'm going to have to do a lot of trimming on this clear plastic part, I would think. That spring and screw are both good. These top hat screws that I'm taking out right now, guys, I like to save because you never know when you're going to need one. They're great for mag levers and etc, etc. Alright, so that should come out of there. There's the trigger. Oops, Got to take the two black ones out for the magazine safety, which is where, if I don't have to remove the switch, where we're now going to mount our lead for our voltmeter. So we'll set it up so it will turn on when you pull the magazine out and turn off when you load a new magazine in. So we're going to save all these little components, except this little part I'm hauling out of there right now. This is a mechanical lock and spring. That's a good spring. Save that, like a double of a catch spring or something later on in life. But like this little mechanical lock right here, we don't need. That goes to the bin. We'll definitely hold on to the spring. Right, and this and that. All right, so now our pusher is out of there. Okay, so we also know, might as well pull this wire channel cover off, because we're going to be routing a lot of wires through this bad boy. And that makes us a little more space. This is the jam door switch. That's going to have to go. That plastic boss is going to have to get cut off. This boss here, because this is going to have to sit up in there. Might even have to trim out some of this orange plastic. So, all right, let me see here. 1, 2, 3 screws to take the whole plastic thing out of there. That would be advisable, I guess, at this point. It'll surely make it easier to work with. Oops, there's another one down here, hiding under the fire switch. This is the one that makes the lights go in the top. We're not worried about that switch, but if I can save it, I'll use it as our new fire control switch on the MOSFET for the pusher. So if we can keep that in there. Alright, so jam door safety switch is going to have to be just deleted completely. Come on out of there. There we go. And then this little switch here, like I said, that's the magazine safety that stops the blaster from revving normally when there's no mag in it. But we're gonna, again, if we don't have to cut all this out, there we go. If we don't have to cut it out of there, we're going to reassemble that and put our voltmeter on that switch. So now this switch right here, up at the top of the jam door safety, so long as it's open like that, it's fine. So we'll probably just move it along and tuck it out of the way somewhere, so that it can't be actuated, and shut down the board, which would only control our lights at this point. It would not stop the blaster from functioning. But you know, we don't want to do anything too rash here. Alright, so let's see. Got some wires in here. I don't know, that boss is actually in a pretty good spot. That's going to have to sit right about there, I would think. But let's get a magazine with a dart in it and double check. Because we want to get this as far forward as we can. Let me move it here. Give me 1 second, guys. Let me move you around a little. Alright, so that can go all the way to right about there. And that's even a pretty good height. It could come down a bit, about like that. Okay, that's not too bad. So, looking at all of this, I mean, it means we're going to have to take pretty much all of this material here, off. And probably this rail, definitely this post, all that stuff's going to have to come out of there. So anyway, I'm going to start getting this trimmed down and see if I can get it to fit back in there with our pusher mech. We know the mech can fit, so just a matter of can I get it to fit with this clear plastic plate that holds all of our accessory switches, which would be nice. So anyway, I'm going to get at that and I'll get back to you. Okay, so we were able to save the slot here for our switch that we're going to put our voltmeter on. Save the slots here. I did have to trim off this larger area up on the top, and what I did once I flattened everything out on the clear plate, the pusher was setting a little low, so it's nice and flat on the back side, so I simply glued on scrap plastic to build up the height that I wanted. Super glued it down to the clear plate, and then as you can see, just hot glued the crap out of it. All underneath it, behind it, down along this full seam here, where the over top where the trigger rides, to hold it in place. So, yeah, so far, very, very pleased with everything. So I'm gonna do some real quickie wiring on it just to give this a test and make sure everything's gonna work and that we don't have to reposition things, and then we'll get it finished up. Okay, so I've wired up the motors. Right, and they're running over here to my test box. And then I've wired up the pusher motor, and it's running over here to AA pack. And so we'll flip the switch and turn the motors on, and then I'll connect the two red wires over here, and that should make the pusher go. So anyway, here we go. Not too bad. I think what we're going to have to do is just put a, there we go, put a little piece of plastic right on the, get this out of here, put a little piece of plastic right on the end of our pusher to give us just a little more push, and then we'll try it again. Alright, again, I didn't bring you guys with me on the venture of wiring. It took me a good couple hours to get everything wired up because there's a lot going on here. So we'll do
the whiteboard of knowledge.
Yeah, that. And I'll try to draw it out for you as good as I can. But, yeah, moment of truth here. Let's take our LiPo and hook it up and see if everything works. Alright, so the battery is plugged. So, the first thing that we're going to do is check our lights. Yep, those work. Alright, sorry, I'm kicking you guys around, my bad. So, I had to delete all of the motor, or the stock switches on the blaster, so I installed this one over here for our voltmeter, so we flip that on. Yeah, that works. So that's nice. And now, moment of truth here. Now remember, we've got our potentiometer going to our pusher, so it should not move until we turn it on. So let's see here. Alright, it revs. Alright, nothing there. Let's turn the pusher motor on, and we'll just crank it all the way up. Let's see here. And we should be able to turn that rate of fire down on that pusher with our potentiometer one more time. Oh yeah. So, yeah. Alright, it worked. Let's button it up and get it on the range, get it on the chrono, and see what happens here. Alright guys, so back over here at the whiteboard of knowledge. Hopefully you guys can see this. I know I've got some reflection, some sunlight coming in from that direction here. So, but anyway, I've labeled all the parts, which is a lot. So let's take a look at that real quick. We had battery connector, our buck that we installed, the stock board, the PWM, the cage, pusher motor, MOSFET 1, MOSFET 2, voltmeter, the switch for the voltmeter, the pusher switch, and the rev switch. So we've got a lot to go over here. So we're going to start with the red marker and do the positive at least for power anyway. I'll try to switch up colors so you guys can see. So coming out of the battery connector, we came up here to the buck, to the input side. Okay, the output side of the buck, we ran over here to the stock board. Okay, no problems there. We also put a split in this hot lead and ran it back here to the back of the blaster, where we split it again. So we'll put a joint here. We put one to one side of that MOSFET, one to one side of that MOSFET. Okay, so we're doing pretty good here. Right? No real problems. Our negative looks pretty much the same, okay? It comes off the connector, goes to the buck, goes to the PCM board, right? Again, a split in it right there. Wire tracing all the way around to the back. With a split, it goes to both MOSFETs. For the sake of this, let's really quickly address the voltmeter and how I did that. Okay, so the switch for the voltmeter are one side into the hot, into the positive. Okay, and the other side of it came into the positive on the voltmeter. The negative on the voltmeter, I just tied into that splice right there. So that way we can work this switch and turn the voltmeter on and off as we want to. All right, our switch is here. We ran wires up from both of those. Like so. Okay, and this is where we start to get a little fun. MOSFET 1 goes to the cage, so we have the positive lead coming off the cage and coming around here and tying in there. And I know this is getting really scrambled. The negative lead comes around and goes to the output side of this. So that circuit is now complete, right? Our rev is done. For our pusher motor, it went a little different way. We had 4 wires on the PWM. You have voltage in and voltage out. So our voltage in wires came out of the MOSFET M2, or the pusher. Ran over there. And ran over there. And then we had 2 wires on the output side of that. So for the sake of this, the black can come around here like so. And we'll use blue just to try to make it a little easier for you to see. Back to the motor. So what happens here, when we plug our battery connector in, we have power to our buck, which means we have it to our stock board. Okay, so when we push, and I forgot, let me grab the green marker. So much stuff in here, I forgot to actually add a switch. The board actually comes down here. And we'll just use blue and black for the sake of this. To this switch, which powers our lights. So these wires coming off the stock board were the original wires running over to the rev switch. So I clipped that off back here, pulled it all through, ran it down to this push button switch that we have on the blaster. So anyway, again, battery plugs in, we got power to the buck, power to the board, which means this switch is live. So whether or not we choose to shoot or not, we can push this button and the lights will light up as they did when we revved the blaster before. Power is now coming over here to both MOSFETs, so they're both hot. Okay, and the way we jumped it off, we also have hot to one side of this switch for our voltmeter. So when we flip it, we can then turn the voltmeter on and off. When we pull the rev switch, right? Opens the gate, power comes through to our cage, and we get a rev. We do the pusher switch. It sends power to the input side of the PWM, okay? And then the output side of that then sends power to our pusher motor, and that's how we can vary the speed of it. So, really, really complicated wiring. I probably should have laid this out a little bit better, but that's the, that's the meat and potatoes of it there, guys. So, if you have any questions or need a proper diagram, I'll get one made up here before too long, and we'll, make it available for you guys if you want to see it. Alright, we're out here with our modded Revoltinator. We've upgraded the cage, motors, and wheels. I'm hoping with this combo to be right around 120. I'd love for this to be a new HVZ blaster for me. I've got the rate of fire set real low on it here so we can try to single shot it through the chrono. Anyway, headphone guys, this is going to get a little loud. Let's see what we get here. Alright, let's take a look here. We doubled off on a few, so we had 12 reads, high of 130, low of 90, and an average of 112. And with the shots that were doubled off there, probably a little closer to 120, but that's right where we want to be. This, like I said, for an HVZ blaster, that's just about perfect. So, anyway, let's see if we can hit anything with it. Yeah, so here we are with the Revoltinator. Let's see if we can hit anything. No problems there. Let's try it with some AccuFix. Yeah, I call that a resounding success. Alright guys, no, that was a long video. The build guides always are, and this one was very, very complicated with the wiring, all the stuff we put in it. You can see our switch here on the side. Flip that down and that turns our voltmeter on. See if I can get you to, there we go. Sunlight coming through the window, I apologize for that. And then flip the switch off. And the voltmeter turns off, so that's great. PWM for our pusher is variable from 0 to full Monty here, which is probably about 7 on this blaster, which is a really good HVZ full auto. Didn't want to go much faster with that. Obviously, our switch over here, you can see at the very tip of my finger, that is to turn on our great lights. So, and then we'll light this one up here with our little spark plugs. So you can do that completely independent of all of the other firing functions of the blaster. And just really quickly take a look at the great paint job on this thing. I got it from Ed at Anchor Arts Creations. I bought it out of his Etsy shop. He didn't custom do it for me or anything like that. It was just in there. Some of the stuff that just the guy paints up and puts in his store. But look at the detailing in this thing, guys. Look at like the circuit board. All done up with all the little circuits and resistors and capacitors and all those things painted up. And then on this side, obviously, our great deal with the batteries here. And then probably my favorite feature, as I am a car guy, is the spark plugs that light up. Right, you can see here all of the names. Right, we have AC Delco, Champion, and Bosch. Which, as a car guy, I really, really appreciate that. That's really just awesome. And this is what a Revoltinator should have looked like from the factory. He also put these really cool little electrode things over here over the in-strike muzzle. So we can't use that anymore, but the Revoltinator is long enough as is. It's a great long rifle. And, you know, I think it came out great. You guys let me know what you think in the comments below. Guys, if you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe button, as I noticed like 85% of my views are coming from folks that are not subscribed. So if you're watching anyway, you might as well help me out and hit that subscribe button. Throw us a like, throw us a comment. In the description box below, I will include our email address, links to the shop, links to our Facebook page, and our fan mail address if you wanted to send something in. Guys, till next time, this is Chris for Project Nerf saying have a blast.